Hello,
Okay.
everyone, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing great and have had a wonderful day and a week so far. We're truly happy to see all of you here today, especially after we had to reschedule last week. So, thank you so much for your flexibility and for being able to join us today. And Elidor, great to have you here with us today. How are you?
It's going all great, Keta. I also have to thank everybody for joining us still, because I had to reschedule the last.
Congratulations again on the graduation last week, by the way. How was it? How was your sister?
Yeah, it was great, but the benefit of being the older sibling is that you're going to watch them do things that you've done before, and you start to feel old. So, yeah, great
That's
benefit, I guess.
true. That's true. Well, it sounds wonderful and a great reason for rescheduling, actually. So, with that, let's dive in, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, I have to repeat that we're incredibly happy to have all of you joining us for today's webinar on a topic that's generated a lot of interest recently, which is building fintech agents that deliver. Actually, this has been one of our most requested topics. We've heard a lot of interest and questions about this area, whether during client meetings, private conversations. I received a lot of inquiries through our articles that we publish on the website and questions that we receive on LinkedIn. And we have finally managed to find an available slot in our busy LLM expert schedule. I'm talking about you, Elidor. And we're really excited to finally explore this topic together. So before we begin, let me quickly introduce ourselves. As you see on the screen right under my face, my name is Keto. I'm an innovation strategist here at Ralabs, and I've been working with the company for over a year now. My main focus is on our content and the website. And as for our speaker, Elidor, I'm pretty sure most of you already know him from his work on the projects and articles featured on our website. He is an AI expert with more than 7 years of experience in machine learning and data engineering. And at Ralabs, he mostly focuses on generative AI. And he has led several successful LLM-based projects. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alidor, but if I remember correctly, your go-to tools include Python, LangChain, Postgres, and cloud infrastructure. Correct.
Yes, exactly, Keta, and thanks for the presentation. It's quite a job to do and less to do for me. All
Well,
right,
you're
so without further ado, let's get started. So right now, let's focus on the landscape on the fintech area. We know that there are a lot of market challenges. We are in an age in which you need to have support during the 24/7 periods of time, and the service should be personalized, and there are a lot of legacy systems that need to be transformed for this digital era. And also, there's this pressure to reduce the operational costs. And it's always intensifying because you need to be faster, better, and cheaper to proceed. And there, of course, are some common pain points that we do have. The customer support costs are rising year by year. It's usually 8 to 10%, but it can depend on the inflation for the year, on the market conditions. Um, we know that the average onboarding process is also quite long right now. It can
Mhm.
last from 20 days, even more. It depends how specialized the people need to be for the role you're looking for. And also, there's technical debt for many companies, and that's also a negative thing because you always need to focus on your systems, and maybe your systems are not even able to handle a lot of
Mhm.
new things that you want to integrate in there. But of course, we are here to talk about LLMs, all right? Not about the grim image of the industry and the cons of the current situation. And LLMs are here and can be quite helpful. First of all, what LLMs can do, we can say that customer interactions is something that we really exceed on, because with LLMs you can basically provide 24/7 personalized customer support. You can guide users through complex financial processes. So you can let them ask the LLM and can generate a step-by-step guide on how to do things on your platform. You can explain financial concepts. You can maintain context from multiple conversation, and provide to the user an experience that seems like seamless and they don't have to ask many times for the same question over and over again. But you can also integrate the knowledge that your company possesses, which means that you can create a tool that is also good for your customers, but also good for your own staff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, LLMs can do the previous points by being able to understand the natural language. And by that, I mean that you can provide on the text data in there and you can get information back on the data that you provided. You can provide like financial documents. You can get the, let's say, metrics that are mentioned in there. You can get the entities mentioned in there, etc. Which puts us to the other point, the document processing. And the magic or the great power of the LLMs is that you can provide quite big documents on a lot of systems. We can do some pre-processing on the background. We can provide the LLM with chunks of this document and we can get the information in an organized manner for you. We can extract the data that you need. We can transform like a massive conversation in a written report. That's all something that we can do. It's something that can benefit the businesses and really, optimize, let's say, their whole workflow.
Mm-hmm.
But LLMs are not that magical thing that can do everything, right? Because there are limitations, and we should always keep in mind that there's no one solution fit at all, right? There's something, some critic point of view that we should always have on everything new and even unproven stuff from time to time.
Exactly. And actually, Elidor, before you continue, let me interrupt you. While you were sharing what LLMs can do, I noticed that most of it was about automation, things like, processing documents, extracting data, speeding
Exactly.
up repetitive tasks. It reminded me of something you once said when we were discussing LLMs previous time while writing and working on the article, that AI should never replace human judgment. So would it be fair to say that you see LLMs as like support tools and not decision makers, and that they should be as they should act as assistants while people remain the ones making the final calls?
Yes, Keto, exactly. And you got straight to the point in this case.
Yeah.
Because with LLMs and a lot of probabilistic models, the thing is that, yes, we're in there and we can raise alerts, we can provide you with some information. However, for most of the fields, it's specific on fintech, it's specific in medicine, it's specific on a lot of industries. And the thing is that you always need some, let's say, human experts that can say the final word.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is like a small decision or if it is about supporting your users as tier one support, then great, you can trust on LLMs and the results can be great. But if it is about something really sensitive, if it is about, let's say you are a fintech company, you suspect some fraud or you have some issues, you have models to put alerts in there, you don't want to stop people like directly without raising an alert and having a system that can have some fallback, let's say. Because let's say you get banned on a platform, you contact the support, you talk with the LLM explains you why it happened. Maybe that wasn't the case with your account, so you want to talk with some person that has some access to return you to the platform. What happens if you don't go in there? Well, that would be a bad customer experience. And also, let's say that LLMs are also not great with the regular limitations that are just coming out during the whole time. It's not that LLMs are bad with things that they already know, because the data that is already in there in the internet, when these are trained, of course, is going to help them, and LLMs can really understand this kind of context. But the issue would be about laws that are just released, things that just come into power, maybe even some emergency situations. And with us, of course, you can't expect your system to be up to date. You can't expect your system to be like really expert on that,
Yeah.
which means that you, of course, can create some agentic framework that can give up-to-date information to your system. But sometimes it's not that easy because you need a pipeline to really make the model understand what you need to understand on these use cases, which means that you always need some people to really verify that and to be saying that, yes, we can use this tool, it can help us, it can make our life better, but it's not going to do our job 100%.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes total sense.
And those are not the only limitations, Keto, that we have on the LLM area right now. We know that there are technical limitations for sure, because first of all, like we are talking about fintech. Is there a way that we can make LLMs to access all sorts of data in real time? I think that's quite challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of sources, there are a lot of things that can happen. Maybe some news can put the markets down or stop your service in some area. There's also some limitation on the processing power that we have right now, and some limitation on the knowledge that LLMs have. Like, don't expect an LLM to be able to solve crazy math formulas, right? And don't expect it to be correct, even if it is able to solve some of those. Don't expect it to be like, let's say, one size fits it all, that new financial things are happening and the LLM will know, because it will be based on the data it had from before when it was trained, but it may be also like completely wrong because things changed and it's not applicable anymore, right? And
Yeah.
also, LLMs don't have this instinct understanding of the market. It's not that you are a fintech company that works on trading, let's say, and it's not that LLMs can go in there and tell you buy this stock, buy this crypto. No, I mean, this can do that, but it's not that it's going to be right. It's more likely to be wrong and to have create some issues, you know. So yes, it's always get it with a grain of salt, and also be a little, let's say, skeptical, and try not to just go in there and believe everything as you see.
Exactly. Exactly. Before we move on, I also wanted to touch on the regulatory side for a moment, because I'm pretty
So
sure we're going to have a lot of questions regarding that. Well, AI moves so fast, it evolves every day, every second. So new laws and standards are being rolled out constantly, right? So, the keeping user data safe is obviously a big deal. And what I wanted to ask you, since you have 7 years of experience with working with LLMs, which regulation have you worked with in the fintech space, and what's important to know from a compliance standpoint when working with a large language models?
yes, yes, thank you. Well, it will always depend on what project you're working on and how you are using the user data. If you think about creating a system that will just track your users everywhere, good luck with that. That's not going to be you know, approved, and that's not going to be compliant with anything. In the European Union, I can say that the laws are more rigid, which
Mm-hmm.
means that yes, it's more complicated to, let's say, put things into production and be sure that you're compliant. You shouldn't be like tracking users in a crazy way. You should not think that I can put this camera
Mm-hmm.
on, let's say, on a mall, and I can track people, I can see everything in there, and I can send emails in real time. No, that kind of stuff is not good. But you
Mm-hmm.
also should know that there are things that you can't, you are also limited, like work metrics and this sort of stuff can also be quite limited on, let's say, the European Union and GDPR. You can also not store data like forever, because that's also prohibited from these regulations. But focusing on the regulations is also quite sensitive thing, and
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a big corporate, you need to have a whole department for that. If you're a smaller
Mm-hmm.
team, of course, you can focus on your product and have a tunnel vision on what I want to do and what I need to do to really respect this knowledge, let's say. And also, don't go and save data all around the world, data that is from European Union to be saved on the US, or even the vice versa, because even in the US we have some limitations. And in the US, basically in the States, is not as rigid as in Europe, but still
Mm-hmm.
there are the regulations, and you need to adhere to this standards that they expect you to be, because otherwise, yeah, that can have problems for a company.
Okay. Okay.
However, we should also see the value proposition after we pass through all this, issues that we just mentioned. First
Mm-hmm.
of all, we need to understand that LLMs are not just a cool tool that you are implementing in there just because it's trendy at the moment. LLMs are a tool that can help you have great business outcomes. First of all, if you're a fintech company, you can reduce your support cost. It can be from 30% to 45%, 50%. It can be more or less depending on what kind of support you're providing to your clients and how much repetitive it is, of course. Your onboarding process will also be accelerated. And why do I say this? Well, the reason is that imagine getting a new member on your staff, and let's say that this person is experienced, is really great at the job, but needs some onboarding process, of course, because they need to understand how everything is set up in the company. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, to do that, they need to go to have some calls with you and the people that are familiar with the current systems. And after that, they will need also, let's say, to have maybe from time to time to communicate with you, ping you on the chat, etc. But in here, you can just have an LLM that they can ping and can explain the process step by step, and even be quicker than me or you could have been to help this new member, because LLMs are not going to be stuck on another task, are not going to be stuck on a call or something like that, but will be always available in there, and we'll have the knowledge base directly to be accessed. Well, for us, maybe sometimes it's like, let me enter in Google Docs, but I don't really remember where I saved this document or how I called it. And we mentioned support also, and I can also say that on support, Tier 1 inquiry resolution is a huge, let's say, time-consuming thing, because in a lot of cases, many of the clients that will write you will be asking, like, how do I, for example, log out? How do I log in? How can I don't know, access the admin panel? And in these cases, it's just like, yes, you can have this LLM that can provide them with help. And even if they have like issues at accessing your system, they can be helped this way. And also with LLMs, we mentioned a lot of compliance, and I saw that you're quite focused on compliance. And the thing is that you can also help yourself on being, let's say, more accurate on compliance. And we said that LLMs are not updated up to date, right? But you can get documents about the new resolutions from European Union, from your own government, whatever. And you can get some key points from LLMs. You can get some summarization, this sort of information. And that can help you just, move faster. And the LLM can even go and tell you that, okay, go to this page and you have that information in there.
Okay.
Which is all and it's like always check and be sure that it's correct. But yeah, most of the times it will be correct in this thing.
Yeah. Well, 35-45% is quite high for now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it will get better, but of course we'll have to see how good, how complex the use cases will get for sure, because everything is progressing too fast right now. And again, focusing on the value proposition of LLMs, it's beyond cost saving, as I said, because customer satisfaction, as point one that we push in here, is quite important. You want to have happy customers, and fast response times, better responses, of course, would be helping on that. You want to have a better employee satisfaction, and you can help them not do like repetitive work. Like, let's say you need to create some document and explain some stuff. You can get a structure in there already in place, and you go and you edit what you need. So you don't need to just go and repeat yourself. It's way quicker. And this is especially great when you can just use existing templates. And you also can have a lot of valuable insights from LLMs, because look, data is the new gold of the digital era. But data that is saved on a database in tabular format, yes, that's great, that's accessible, that's another story. But what about data that you have from direct communication with your clients? Because from this data, you can say that, yes, our clients are happy about the platform, or no, our clients think the platform is slow, the costs are high. So this sort of stuff you can't really, let's say, get from your tabular data that says the client spent this much, spent from this country, etc. No. So this can be really helpful, and with some smart tool like an LLM in there, you can absolutely extract this data and understand the current, let's say, sentiment about your system. And then, of course, where can we go without mentioning our real-world use case projects, right?
I believe
one of those, because
sorry for interrupting. I believe this will be the most interesting part for our attendees as well.
Yes, I hope so, at least. Yeah, so first of all, we can talk that we're working with many fintech companies. And a use case that we got was about their tax study system. They have to talk with their clients. They need to prepare some kind of service that they provide to the IRS, which is the tax authority in the US. Doing this, they need to do some, let's say, manual validation of the interviews that they do with clients, because they will always need to talk with the clients, right? Because you can go and do things for somebody else without having any information. After that, they need to have this audio transcription listening. They need to prepare some document in there that is going to be put on this tax form. Of course, there can be some inconsistencies if you do it like that, because think about it, you have experts doing repetitive work, and that can also, kind of make them waste time, make them wish to just speed up a little so they can be on schedule, especially on the busy seasons. And the operational costs, of course, are also going to be high for the company, because just imagine like you have the best experts there are, and you have to put them to do some really manual work that is just repetitive. It's like robotic stuff. And of course, that's going to take their time, and that's going to be more expensive for you because you're paying for this work hours. But also, there's another problem that is not that you can hire people that are not specialized on this field to lower the costs, or like hire support from other side of the world. No, because you need people that are specialized on this thing and can really, prepare this kind of documents. But what would be the solution from our side then? Well, we can enhance that using AI-powered techniques. We can transcribe the meetings for them. After that, we can use LLMs that are set up in a specialized way to just work with the tax terminology, to know what kind of generation they need in there, and to understand the meeting that they have with their client. These LLMs will automate the report generation. So you can put this information in the system, and you can get a version of this system, of this report that you wanted to have since the beginning. And of course, what we provided is also a scalable infrastructure. Everything is done on the cloud. It's not that you have a local machine that can handle this amount of requests. No, you can just scale it with a click of the button, and that's also great, especially for enterprise clients that are going to have more and more clients, more and more use cases, and also, let's say, even sell it outside of the company if needed.
Well, I'm looking at amazing results right here on the screen, like 20 times reduction in operational costs, 3 times faster study completion through workflow automation, flexible deployment options, enhanced compliance accuracy and consistency, and less load on specialized tax professionals for routine tasks. Those are quite impressive results, but in for the juicy details, Elidor. So my question is, I need to know, what was the biggest challenge you faced? Like, was there a moment you just hit a wall where you were just sitting and thinking that, okay, I need to remember this forever and never ever repeat that mistake again?
Yes, there have been a lot of moments like that. We're not talking about all of those, because people who just leave them would be
No,
a
no.
long story. But the thing is that
This project, this
when
case.
you get started in a project like this, of course, you start to talk with the experts, you create a solution that you think is great, etc. But what's a challenge is to really understand, the use case you have. You need to understand how their process of work is, how an expert of the field thinks about this kind of work. You need to understand their approach on doing this. And a lot of times it's a challenge to really do that. You iterate through multiple versions, you try to make it as similar as possible to their, let's say, process of work. And that was quite a challenge for me on this project, for sure, because I needed to understand how they write this report, what is their style, etc. And you also tend to think about the technical stuff when you are a technical person that just came in. But of course, it was a challenge that we did overcome. But of course, that was the main challenge that we had, because it's not that I can say that, yes, I have this bug on the code, but the moment I understand why the bug is caused, I can just solve it, right? And will the code is different, but in here it's quite different. In here it's more the human part, more the preferential part, how you write things to be written, how you want to prepare your system to not make mistakes, what kind of mistakes are even acceptable or not, right? Because there are mistakes that can really make your client say, okay, this document is really bad, I'm not going to return to them, and make, of course, your expert say that, okay, I'm not using this system because I have to rewrite the whole thing again. So it's like
Okay.
listening to interview, rewriting again. That would be bad. And of course, these are things that we try to always minimize and to avoid completely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. It makes sense.
And as we said about this process, and you ask about the juicy details, you say, well, here you also have the key steps for the success in this case. And as I said, first of all, really try to understand the use case that you have, try to assess the situation. If you can find like 10 use cases in a company that you're going to implement LLM systems in, first try to find a use case with a high impact for them, something that can really help them to maybe lower costs, to speed up their process, to rise their customer satisfaction or employee satisfaction. Something that, but also something that is not high risk, right? Because you need to be as let's say in depth with their use cases, as in depth with their line of business. And to do that, that shouldn't be the first use case to implement, right? There should be something that you have in there, you have studied well, and you can do later. But also never try to automate decision making. That would be a mistake. Of course, you need to think also about data integration, because we're talking about enterprises and fintech companies, and even new companies are generating like useful data, and all companies do have a lot of data stored in there that is just waiting for you to go in there and get it. But
Yeah,
it won't be the easiest process ever, because there would be a lot of challenges from the system perspective. Also,
should
think
be.
about this system as a, let's say, phased rollout, not something that you make once and it's going to stay there. No, that's not going to work. And if you want a really good experience, you are always going to maintain your system, to improve it, etc. So think about phase rollouts and some metrics to have in there. Also try to design a clear way how the people can use it, how they can communicate with it. Don't think that, I created this system, it works great, but then at the end of the day, even you that developed it can't really use it in a practical manner, because it feels so robotic and so long and so bad that you are like, okay, I'll just write it myself.
Have you,
Then
did you, sorry for interruption again, did you ever have that kind of case where you just, had to start everything all over again?
yeah, absolutely. That hasn't happened during my Ralabs days, but in my previous
That I
places, we did get a lot of old projects that weren't
know.
maybe so practical. We also did get some solutions that were done in there, like in a short amount of time, and weren't really that great at being used. Like you had a lot of manual stuff to do just to set up the project. And if I need the whole day to set up a project, even when I know how everything works, and I have you, the creator of the project, in there, then I'll be like, no, that's not great. And
Okay.
this kind of cases have happened. And even with the systems that we create, we want something that you enter in there, you see the website, you look at it, and you don't say that, oh God, how do I use this thing? It's like a spaceship command panel. No, it should be
Yes.
as simple as intuitive as possible, because there's some trade-off between simplicity and let's say usability. You want to do something useful at the same time, not something that does nothing, but you also don't want something to just go in there and scare your users and make them spend weeks just learning what each button does, because that's not good. Sure.
Yeah.
And also after that, we should mention that you do always testing on your systems. You can do some kind of hidden QA testing, which means that you put things in production, you make the user you make the users try the systems, so they can tell you that yes, this was better, the other was better, but not knowing which was what. Because if you tell them that, okay, you can try version A, version B, and they just go in there and, like, let's say version A worked great for them 3 times straight, and they'll be like, okay, version A is the greatest, and I'm not going to test version B again, right? You want something balanced and random in there. But you also care about optimizing your system. You want something that should be also correct,
Yeah.
but you also want something that can be, fast at usage. You don't want to be on the ChatGPT website and wait 20 minutes for a response, right? That would be
Exactly.
horrible, and you would like to just avoid that, right?
Yeah, that's true. Elidor, in your experience, what step usually takes the most time or, ends up being underestimated when starting an LLM project? And also, what are the most common mistakes companies make early on when adopting LLMs?
Yes, well, first of all, I can say that many companies think about use cases that look cool to them,
Mhm.
but don't really think about the benefit of this use case. They
Okay.
don't. sometimes think about the trade-off between simplicity and complexity that you have in there. And the thing is that try to start small always. Try to really be focused on your use case. Don't create something that does 1,000 things at once, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
create smaller use cases that can do those, but don't overcomplicate stuff because it's going to hit back really fast. It's going to be bad at getting started, bad at maintaining the stuff.
Okay, so we need to understand what we are working with and what kind of solutions will be the best for that case.
Yeah, exactly. And there should
Mhm.
also be some analysis from the companies what benefits them the most,
Sure, sure, of course. So
because
data.
it's not about having the cool technological solution with the new technology. It's also about
Mm-hmm.
having something that you can say, really, yeah, we needed this and it's helping us.
Mm-hmm. Ah,
But
common people. Good.
as we said, you
Yeah.
mentioned that, and it was like telepathic. There, of course, will be a lot of pitfalls when you
Mhm.
start implementing stuff. First, I said, yeah, we're technical people when we start doing things, and maybe we tend to overlook sometimes, but please don't do that. It will be a problem. You don't
Mhm.
want to have a thing that is great, looks awesome when you talk about it, but then the users can't do anything with it because it's just great for you who develop something cool. No, you need
Mhm.
something that is great but also helpful.
Mhm.
Also, don't try to do some inadequate change of management processes for what you're changing for the teams that are
Mhm.
using that. Which means if you have a particular way how you do things on a website, don't go in there and just break things. Don't go in there and change their whole process. Because imagine one day Slack works in a different way, and the next day they changed everything, and you don't know how to do anything anymore. Because that would be really annoying. Do something that feels intuitive, gradual, like a normal, let's say, evolution of the product.
Mhm.
Don't go from Google Maps of 2010 to Google Maps of 2024. That would be not great. Also, you should never miss the feedback loops because it's not always about metrics, Keta. We can work and maybe we get some data, we prepare some
Mhm.
perfect metrics in there. But what happens when I'm generating some, I created some system that generates some documents for you, let's say, when you write with binaries or whatever. And let's say for me, metrics are great because it checks all the points that you provided and seems awesome. And like, I push this
Mhm.
into production, deal with it. But you look in there and it's like writing like a 5-year-old, using only simple words, not being really great at the, let's say,
Mhm.
the way how it's written, the story driven with binary and everything. And that would not be great because that would push your users away. That would be
Mhm.
uh, quite not practical, and that should be something to avoid. And that's why I say keep feedbacks in place always, because the
Mhm.
users are the ones that can really tell you it's good or it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the users can also be wrong sometimes. That's why we check ourselves too, but you should always be up to date with the user worries. Also, have some clear escalation protocols in there. Because
Mhm.
yes, it may work like great for 90% of cases, but maybe you want to write something about, I don't know, some weird field that is not really popular, and the LLM is like, oh, what we're talking about, I don't know, frog monitoring. What's going to happen in there? It just generate nonsense. And if that's the case, we should always have some plan to really have some escalation protocol in there and just stop it, from just doing mistakes. And especially if you have a support system, you don't want to have it just go in there and do weird stuff. Also, you don't want it to be in there and just be abused by the users so they can just play around and you have stupid
Mhm.
costs in place, right? And also, always pay sufficient attention to regulatory compliance. Don't do the mistake of just saying, yeah, we'll do the system now, we'll see this later. Don't do that because the problem will be that it will be expensive to do it later. You have to rewrite a lot of stuff. And maybe something can't even be implemented based on the regulatory requirements.
Mhm.
So always check the GDPR, look at your use case. If it feels like too big brother thing, don't really push it because it can be a problem. And
Mhm.
also never fail to establish some meaningful success metrics. And it's not only about saying the LLM is this percent accurate, it's also about saying we solve like problems of customers this fast, our platform gets this amount of positive reviews now compared to before. So this kind of stuff can really help you to understand how good your implementation was. And also it can just make the platform have worse reviews, because if you do a wrong implementation, of course it will make the users talk bad about it. Like, imagine you have a platform that just doesn't allow you to do anything, you're blocked at talking with the robot, you don't access like talking with any person, and you're like, okay, my account is logged out, I go and talk with the support, it's just a chatbot, and it says try it again and come back later. No, that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
And of course, measuring success also means having some essential KPIs. It means having some efficiency KPIs in which you talk about the average time you need to handle something, how much does it cost for each conversation also, because let's be realistic, if you have a support team that is doing everything manually, let's say you're paying, I don't know, $100 per hour, let's say, per person, I don't know, let's put some values in there, just around that sums,
Yeah.
And if you go in there, you implement something with LLMs, and let's say the cost of your infrastructure are so big that you're paying more than you did for your, let's say, human system. Then what's the meaning? You just automated something, but made it way more expensive,
Yeah,
and
no, we want that.
that's not what you want, because that does not benefit your business. And the only reason why we do all of these automations, it's about benefiting the business and improving stuff, not making things worse.
Exactly. Not to just follow the trend, but to actually improve
Exactly.
flows.
Exactly. Because if there's no use case for that, why should you implement that?
True.
Yeah. And also, you should know about how good you are at first contact resolution rate, because that also matters. You don't want to have people being pushed from one operator to another, from one LLM to another. No, that would be bad. And you don't want to have a system that is just getting contacted and is 99% of cases just being asked to connect me with a human. Also, you should think about customer experience. You should get their scores. You should put some star scores, or some 1 to 10 or whatever, so they can get you their opinion. And maybe also some, let's say, opinion boxes that they can write what's good or bad. You should think about the self-service completion rate for your internal systems, of course. You should think about abandonment rate. So how much chats were open in there, the person tried to communicate with you, and they're just like, okay, I'm leaving. And that was worse before LLMs too, because the thing is that when you have a limited number of people that are working in support, and let's say that you are at a case in which, I don't know, something big is happening and all the people are buying. Let's say it's Black Friday. You have a payment service, people are buying, issues are happening. They contact you, but instead of having 10 people calling you per minute, you have like 1,000 people. Of course, you can't handle that, and they'll be hang on the phone and without any support. That can be helped in here, because you can provide some tier 1 support at first. Also, the business impact is quite great, because you have better conversion rate, you are better compiling with regulatory compliance, and when you see this 100-page plus documents, of course, you would like something to support you on those. Employee satisfaction can rise, as we mentioned, and also customer retention can get better. But also, there are LLM-specific metrics that we should measure, like how accurate your response is, how good the escalation rate is. Like, are people just complaining this thing is trash and I don't want to talk with it? Or are people saying that, yes, it's helping me like 50%, 80%, whatever percentage of cases? And also, what kind of confidence do we have with this, and what kind of model coverage? Like, let's say you have a model that is, and in many cases, we just kind of specialize models to just be good at one thing, not at everything. 'Cause we have a saying in Europe that if you do everything, you are not doing anything well. You're just doing everything okay enough. And you want to understand that how good this model is, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're talking about the tips and tricks on how to get started, I assume.
Absolutely. And getting started is also maybe the most difficult part of the whole thing, because
Yeah,
let's
you need
say
to
that
understand.
you're just a company or startup, or old enterprise that has been in the industry for quite a long time, and
Mhm.
let's say that, okay, you have to think about a lot of things to get started and you are overwhelmed. You
Mhm.
shouldn't be, but of course it happens. And you think, let's try all these technologies to create a system overcomplicated that is maybe the best at scaling, but you don't even need most of these
Mhm.
features. And that's going to be more expensive than it needs to be. Maybe you're going there and you say, okay, like, what's the best LLM that OpenAI offers? Is GPT maybe O1 version or high
Mhm.
versions that it has, or maybe you want O3 mini or whatever. And you just go and put this in production, but these are really expensive, right? And what you end up having is a system that is slower than the simpler versions, that is more expensive, and you're not even using it the right way because it's not meant to be asked, like,
Mhm.
how do I log into the platform? It's meant to be asked for something that needs some logic, right? So that
Yeah.
would be really bad. And also, you need to understand the process that you have in there. And this is saying that when you started, you need to have a clear prioritization of what
Mhm.
metrics you have, what kind of feedbacks you loops you have, and what kind of features you even want to implement first, right? Because
Mhm.
as I said, you have 1,000 use cases in your company. Find the 10 most important first and continue iterating through different sprints
Mhm.
to that and to go where you want it to be. And also, it means that it's impossible to, like, not impossible, but important to choose the right people because you need people that have AI and ML expertise that really understand the models and can tell you that yes, this problem is happening, but it's happening for this reason. Not someone that can just say that yeah, I implemented the API, but I don't really understand
Mhm.
the model workarounds and hyperparameters and everything. You need also experts on the subject matter. On fintechs is really important because you need people that maybe you need expert on customer support that have worked for years in there and know how to really speak well with the clients. Maybe you need people like I mentioned with the tax R&D studies, CPAs that are
Mhm.
certified for that, that have years and years of experience. Maybe you need people that are, I don't know, stockbrokers or whatever. They can say that yeah, I have this intuition, I have this gut feeling, and this is good or this is bad.
Mhm.
You always need this kind of people that can really help you to develop a product that they can test and say, yes, this can go to the customer. No, this is going to make a bad image of us and shouldn't be pushed ever. But
Mhm.
also, you need to prepare a management strategy. So whatever happens, you have a plan, right? You have a way how you handle things. You know, we're going to plan things this way. We know that we're going to plan for this,
Mhm.
this, and that expense. And we know how to communicate with all the technical people and subject experts that we got in there.
Mhm. Okay. Well, Elidor, I'm looking at the partner selection criteria, and I have to say that if I had known you'd be revealing all of our Ralabs secrets today, I might have reconsidered giving you the mic. But,
Ouch. I fear that this whole conversation will be censored the
yes.
moment it ends.
Yes, I'm going to be deciding what to put in the article post webinar and what not. But jokes aside, what I want to know, the juicy details. What's other than what we have already covered, what you have already discussed, and what we are looking at the screen right now? I want to know what's your number one piece of advice for teams that are just getting started with LLMs. You have like 7 years of working experience. I'm pretty sure you worked on thousands of different projects, thousands of different teams. So what will be your number one piece of advice? If you could give one advice to a team who is starting working with LLMs right now, what would it be?
Yes, well, as I said, first of all, understand well the problem and try to be. I know that tunnel vision is not a good term, but try to
Mhm.
really focus on what you need to do at first. Don't spread out too thin and try to make a gradual,
Mhm.
implementation of a system that you're working on. Because with LLMs, it's also a little tricky because it's not like
Mhm.
you're developing a normal software system and I can say
Mhm.
to you that yes, this is too slow and we need to work on that, or this have bugs and we need to work on that. Because with LLMs, in many cases, these things will be dormant and you will be just
Mhm.
stuck with the problem in hand. But also, through the years, things changed a lot, right? When I started 7 years ago, I was really eager to learn like everything. I had to
Mhm.
change that approach after a while, of course, because you need to specialize in something for sure. But
Yeah.
what you really need to understand is that a lot of trends are going not to go anywhere, right? You need to focus on the main picture. You need to focus on the important stuff and not say that, yeah, this library is the greatest. I will learn everything about it, do everything about with it, and be a strong advocate. No, think about tools of work that you use as just tools of work. Use this as something that helps you do your job, that helps you optimize the use cases that you
Mhm.
have. If some tool is not great for the job anymore, then don't fear to just refactor the code that you have in there and just
Mhm.
drop what is not optimal anymore, right?
Okay. Thank you once again for your honesty.
And of course, we also have some getting started first
Sorry.
steps. uh, but Keto wants to spoil everything before going down to business, right?
Yes. Well, it
but
helps you transition smoothly and naturally to the next slide. So you're welcome.
absolutely. but
Okay.
yeah, jokes and complaints aside, of
Yes.
course, when you get started, you mentioned a lot of time, conduct an opportunity assessment, talk with the
Mhm.
customers, understand what they're doing, what's their vision, focus on that. Select like high impact use
Mhm.
cases, establish some success metrics for sure. Also
Mhm.
develop some minimum viable product so you can make some MVP for the client and they can see themselves that yes, this is the hands-on experience. We really like it or we don't like it or we need to change this before going and building the big stuff. Create some responsible, let's say, governance in place. So you
Mhm.
need some framework, and it will depend on your company side, on how things are handled, how much bureaucracy is in place. If you have a company that is quite big and separated, you need something to even manage the costs in a separate way. If you have something that is more like a
Mhm.
company that is, sorry for the mistake, for that is more like, yeah, we're focused on the product and we are not separated like multiple departments working on different budgets, and we're fine. We can just go and don't need to focus on that, focus on the
Mhm.
implementation part and on the useful part, because you can make the best infrastructure to separate this cost ever, but that's going to be more complicated than spend development hours somewhere that maybe is not needed at the moment. And also try to build some cross-functional team, right? So the team
Mhm.
can be good at doing everything. You need people that are specialized in
Mhm.
front end, in back end, in cloud. You have also people that are good at doing multiple of this stuff, but of
Mhm.
course they will need some variety of teams. And also, if you're just getting started, try to use as much, let's say, cloud provided tools as you have in there. The less custom things you do, the better. Don't try to say that yes, maybe we can save some money by hosting the LLM ourselves in case of
Mhm.
extreme, let's say, access from the users. No, because you'll have problems to scale and you will end up spending more just to keep the server alive when it's just
Mhm.
not being utilized. And that's a waste.
Yeah.
All right. So I was the one that spoiled the thank you slide, but
Yes, it's fine. As I know now, we have some quite interesting notebook ahead of us, and I just wanted to
Mhm.
say before we go on to that part, for our attendees, feel free to send any questions that you have in comments in the chat, and we will be having a Q&A session right after we discuss the notebook that Elidor has
Yes,
prepared for us.
exactly. So
And yeah, we will be discussing those questions and answering everything. Yeah, after the notebook part is over. So, Elidor, the floor is yours once again.
yes, and now we have to go on the share screen that can break the two internet. In any case, I started this notebook at the beginning of our meeting because I didn't want to let everyone wait like 10 minutes for this to finish. We'll provide this notebook as public also to you guys, so you can just go and run it. These are just some dependencies that you need to run the notebook, but feel
Okay,
free to explore and experiment yourselves for sure.
here we are.
So yeah, skipping that, of course, you'll need some library imports that you'll
Mhm.
use, but there are also some others because I didn't, let's say, write the clearest code in here. I wrote something that just was useful and good enough to show. You will
Mhm.
also have the OpenAI API key in here that you need to provide your own because, of course, depending on the usage, mine would go out of credits really soon. You have this initialization of LLMs, and you can use this basically for most of your use cases, but it depends how specific you are with libraries. In here, We don't have a lot of really complex stuff. We're using LangChain out of the box solutions. But
Mhm.
in most of our, let's say, use cases kata, we just go and also write a lot of custom stuff because that's just how life is, It's not a
Mhm.
piece of cake, easy to go on.
Yeah.
All this. Of course, we started the notebook with really simple
Mhm.
stuff, like write a short poem about artificial intelligence, and
Oh,
it just goes and writes it. You write
that.
it about some text translation. I asked it to
Mhm.
write in Albanian, and yes, it translates it. And I
Which
think I'm the
language is it?
only. It's Albanian, but you can change it
Nice.
whatever. Like you can say even
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Arabic, and it should go and generate Arabic. So yeah,
Okay.
LLMs are not limited like traditional translation
Mhm.
models are just limited to one single language. You
Mhm.
can ask it about questions, but this is a simple one. Like you say, what, for example, is you're an AI assistant, provide consistent answers, and you ask about Northern Lights, the tool explain it to you. You can
Mhm.
even ask more interesting thing like summarization. And I go in here and I give it this text about FinTech. It gives me with 50 words. It can also give it to you with 10 words. Don't try something like one because it will make no sense, but because I have footnote checks in there, but yeah,
Mhm.
you have it in there. It says basically some small stuff about FinTech. And yeah, it's a
Mhm.
good 10-word description, I'll say. You can go and make a 50-word description. Of course, it will be better because it makes more sense like that.
Yeah.
Of course, with LLMs, you can also do more, as we said. So you can go in there and say that, yes, we can have some structured outputs.
Mhm.
So basically, I created a class on Pydantic here. It's just like a way
Mhm.
that to have a structured output. We also use this for APIs, so nothing special. And we
Mhm.
just give the prompt to the LLM and also tell it that you have this formatted instruction.
Mhm.
So the LLM knows how to give you this response in a formatted
Mhm.
instruction too. And you ask it about, let's say, a fintech product recommendation. I give
Mhm.
to it like I want a payment system in here, and it can have like the high risk. And what it tells me, it tells that yeah, you can use a cryptocurrency payment gateway, like Coinbase in this case. But I can also ask it something like, I don't know, pension fund, because I'm trying to think about a low risk. And if you
Okay.
ask this thing to your LLM, it will be like, you know what, just go and buy a pension fund. The risk is low and it's not going to give you much percentage of wins, but it's also
Mhm.
going to be safe. So you're not going to go like 90% minus in your checking
Okay.
account in a matter of one night.
Okay.
You can use the same thing, but just to create something like more advanced. Like I ask it like, okay, I'm in city of Tirana. I have a 6-month period. Make me some
Mhm.
kind of plan in there.
Oh,
And it will of course take a little more time, but it says yes, you have these recommended products to use. You have these key actions like make a monthly budget, open saving accounts. Just don't go and spend like crazy, basically. And you also have these trusted providers that you can do this thing. And these are the banks that you have on the country. You have telecom providers. It also gives you some financial tips, which are of course standard ones, but we're just doing a generic use case in there just to show what it does. After
and
that, yeah. Okay, I thought you asked something, but I'm
no, no,
continuing
no.
in the case. Of course, we also have some RAG system. So basically, RAG is the retrieval augmented generation system, in which you have some information in some knowledge base. You put it on some vector database and you search for it. In here, we only have a single one that gives some information about our company. And
Mhm.
of course, we did the setup and everything, and you can just go and ask some
Mhm.
information. You can ask what are the founders of the company, what are the products, where our office is located. It also gives you like the place where it got the information. But of course, it can scale, it can get way better than this. This is just what we know, what we have enough just to show that yes, it can
I
find
hope you
information
didn't
interesting.
include any secrets here, right? No
I
secret.
tried to put secrets, but I was vetted by the team before, so unfortunately no. The only secret is my OpenAI key, but that's also on its last legs of credit. So
Okay.
yeah, this webinar took some tries to finish this demo. Of course, we can also put some enhancement on the RAG. You can put some chain of thought so the model can try to reason on it. So basically, you can go in there and you ask the context and question, and of course, you can get something. And you can also do some interactive stuff. And the demo for this was like later. So you can
Mm-hmm.
go and ask an interactive AI agent about doing something. This will take a little more because it's just talking with itself and trying to do some actions as you see in there.
Mm-hmm.
And after it does some these actions, and these are basically the same, it's just trying it a few times. By the way, it
Mm-hmm.
can also like just fail if you just got too long. That's also something that can happen. But it will try multiple times until it finds a plausible, let's say, response.
Mm-hmm.
And of
Okay.
course, it will continue for more seconds than what we had before. But it
Okay.
does observations, things like that. And after that, you'll get the responses that were needed, but not showing this because we have limited time. So we can just go and also show our document analyzer feature. Basically, we have all of this explanation. It's again about Ralabs. You can do some semantic search in there, and you have some demo queries that can show what happens. And you go in there, you run this. Of course, it's also going to take more time because now you're just going in there and asking multiple questions to
Yeah.
analyze a document. But you can also keep in mind is that the longer the document is, the more time it takes. And also, the bigger
Mm-hmm.
the model is, the more, of course, time it will take to do stuff. Because a more complicated model is better at reasoning and understanding context and stuff. But of course, it's slower because bigger
Mm-hmm.
means to think, right? So it's bigger. It needs more time to think.
Mm.
And yeah, in here we're analyzing the
Yeah.
document. What are the fintech capabilities of Ralabs? We also have which industries benefit from Ralabs, and we have some here like payment orchestration, know your client, automation, investment tools, and these are related to the, let's say, fintech that we talked about. It will
Mm-hmm.
give you even more explanation. What engineering challenges are typical in fintech? And it says from these cases, and these are just not real use cases, right? These are use cases that we put in here not to show secrets, as Keto said, because yeah, we don't want any clients. And yes, that's most of it for the demo. You can also run like the whole demo at the same time, only with these functions in the end.
Mhm.
That's also fine. But of course, if you enter
It
and just go in there and try the demo, you'll also be tempted to just try stuff with your own keys. And for
Mhm.
that, and especially this kind of demo, it is quite easy. You can just go in there and just get some open key
Mhm.
from the API platform that you have from OpenAI. But you can use whatever provider you want. If you have something on Azure, you just do that. If you have something on AWS, it's just the same. You
Mhm.
just go on the dashboard and you can generate it in here for sure.
Okay.
But I'm
Well,
stopping here not to leak
and
any information. But that would be
please.
bad for me, not for Ralabs on this case. So
Thank you. Well,
it
thank
it will be my own checking account.
Well, it was very interesting, Elidor. Thank you so much for working on it and for sharing it with us. I cannot wait to receive it. And I saw the question regarding the notebook. The notebook will be sent to all of the attendees and everyone who registered for the webinar via email. So you will be able to play with it, experiment with it, ask questions to it. If you don't understand something or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via simply replying to the email, and we will be more than happy to
Yeah.
help you out. Well,
And
Elidor,
of course, if you have some complaints, you complain to Keta, but
yeah, complaints go to me,
the
questions go to
complaints will come to me in any case.
yes, yes, that is
All
true.
right.
All right, let me check the chats real quick to see maybe we have questions. We received quite a few thank yous. So thank you once again, Elidor, for finding the time for preparing this amazing presentation and the notebook and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. If Thank you. We're receiving thank yous, dear Elidor. So I believe there are no questions regarding the topics simply because everything you explained was super clear, super comprehensive. So once again, thank you for that. So in this case, I believe we can say our goodbyes. I can let you get back to your work, Elidor.
Oh,
And
come on, it's 6 afternoon.
I'm sorry.
Need to plan about
You're
sleep now.
always busy. You're always busy, so it's not my fault for assuming that you are working all the time. So, thank you everyone for joining us, for attending. We truly hope that you enjoyed the webinar as much as we did. Well, I did enjoy it a lot. So we will send out the notebooks via email, and we hope to see all of you on our next webinar, which I'm not going to spoil right now, but you will definitely be seeing the news and updates on our LinkedIn pages. And if you are lucky to be in our emailing campaigns, you will receive all the updates to your inboxes as well. Do you have anything to add, Elita?
Well, I have to thank everybody, and also thank you for being a great co-host in this webinar. And yeah,
Ah,
see you next time. But I will not be your host next time. So Keto is the
you
permanent
never
member
know.
here.
You'll never know. You'll never know. We're not spoiling secrets right now. So, okay, I'm gonna let everyone
Thank you,
go.
everybody.
Thank you once again, and have a wonderful rest of the evening, week, and weekend ahead. Bye bye.
Bye.